Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that goes to the cinema every week, watches a couple of things, rates them out of five, stays at home, watches an equal number of things out of five, puts them up against each other, sees where money has been better spent this week, where you better off staying at home or actually leaving your house. My name is Tosin and I am the host. I am based up in a place called Bromsgrove in the middle of the United Kingdom near Birmingham. And joining me as always from the Isle of Wight is Sharon Bollen
Hello.
and Shaun Harris.
Oh yeah.
Hello, yes, Shaun, who we have reclaimed Shaun from Thailand for one of his many trips to Thailand, and all of a sudden you can tell because all of a sudden I'm like, oh, good Lord, we got three films to review again this week. We got three films in cinema to review this week. I have to be somewhere in less than an hour, so we're gonna crack on with it. Tell us, what is it that you've seen in the cinema this week? Shaun, let's start with you. Okay, Shaun's frozen. Sharon, let's start with you.
I have seen The Salt Path at the
I'm
cinema this week,
The
on the
Salt
based on
Path.
the Rain Win novel. No,
Yes,
book.
yes, the Soul Path, that's the Gillian Anderson, Jason
Jason
Patrick,
Isaac.
Isaac, not Patrick. That'll be a different film.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all right, cool.
Based on a best-selling memoir.
Based on the best-selling memoir, and I, as promised last week, have gone to see Lilo and Stitch. I have well and truly fallen into the Disney remake trap and took my two daughters to go see Lilo and Stitch. A great time was had by all. Okay, Shaun, I think you're back with us now. What did you see in the
I
cinema?
am. Okay, so I went to Secret Screaming
Oh yeah. Oh my God, how spooky is that? Shaun says I went to a secret screaming
on
and he break.
streaming on Paramount Plus. I saw Mobland.
Okay, cool.
We missed
Shaun,
your secret screaming again. Sorry, Shawnee, you froze on us.
yo, we have Lilo and Stitch and Assault Path in the cinema, and Shaun saw something as a secret screaming that he froze immediately. He said secret screaming. So as far as we know, something happened to Shaun and somebody took him.
Yeah, that's it.
There's a
Yeah.
ghost in
So
the
it was
machine.
it was called Dangerous Animals,
Dangerous animals. Okay,
an
cool.
Australian pick. Yeah, and
Oh,
on TV, I did a 7 day Paramount Plus thing and watched Mobland.
Mobland,
That's got
Mobland.
one. Yeah,
All right,
Mobland.
cool. Yeah, and how about you, Sharon? What have you seen at home?
At home, I have finished watching on iPlayer The Bombing of PanAm 103.
Ah, yes, the Name of PanAm 103. Did you watch the other show, Lockerbie? That was on Sky. That was about
I
the.
About the same thing. I didn't actually because I had only recently watched a documentary and it covered the same ground. I thought if I'm going to watch a film, I'd rather watch the documentary over the drama. So I
Yeah,
actually watched the documentary and not the drama.
yeah. Well, I hear the. So what? What made you want to watch this one now? This time around.
Well, I wasn't intending to watch it really because I thought, well, it's so
Mm.
low. But I happened to catch one episode, well, half of one episode that my mum was watching, and I
Yes.
thought, oh, this actually looks quite good. So I
Yeah.
went back, and it was like episode two or three. So I then went back and watched it from the beginning and watched all of it.
Oh, it's funny how to get you. I have a similar thing because what I've seen at home, I watched a show on Netflix called Department Q, and it's a similar. When I come to review, it's a similar story as to how I ended up watching the whole thing. And Sean, what have you seen at home?
Okay, yeah, Mobland. That's what.
Oh yeah,
That's.
you did say Mobland. All right, cool. In that case, with no further ado, I'm just gonna barrel right into this, and I'm gonna kick off with Lilo and Stitch because Lilo and Stitch is the big noise. It is already making a ton of money. So going back to the conversation that we were having in the last couple of weeks about Disney being what I call creatively bankrupt and just re-releasing everything that they've already done that they knows works. And once you have numbers like this, because Lilo and Stitch has been out about 2 weeks and it is already on its way to making $500,000 at the box
Wow.
office. So once you have results like that, there's going to be somebody sitting in the Disney office going, well, yeah, of course this works. What else can we remake? What else can we remake?
Aristocats.
Oh yeah, that's coming. I'm surprised they haven't gone to Aristocats yet. But yeah, the thing is like, oh, but I think people were thinking that the remake thing had died down with Snow White because Snow White didn't have that good a that it didn't have that good performance, financial performance. But no, don't worry, Lilo and Stitch was ready there to pick up the slack and then some. So the film, if anybody knows the story of Lilo and Stitch, as with Disney remakes, exactly the same story. You start off and you meet this sort of like what they call this galactic empire thing. There's a whole bunch of aliens in space and spaceships, and it turns out that one of them called Jumba has been has been secretly working on genetic experiments that he hasn't told anybody about. And they finally find out when he gets to experiment 626. So there's this thing called experiment 626, which they go, oh my God, it's an abomination. You are hereby banned from ever doing science. We're going to lock you up in jail and we're going to sort of like banish this creature that you've created. This creature is Stitch, and Stitch is created to destroy. That's what his thing is. His whole raison d'etre is to destroy stuff and to cause chaos. And so, as they're trying to banish him, he does his thing, causes chaos, almost blows up the spaceship is in, steals one of the spacecrafts and escapes. But he's going towards Earth, and they're like, oh, well, he's going towards Earth. He can't survive in water. That planet is 95% water. But wouldn't you know it, he happens to land on a tiny bit of a tiny bit of land called Hawaii. And so he lands on Hawaii. They go, oh my God, he's there. We need to go get him back. So they send his creator and another guy who are aliens down to Earth to go get him. Meanwhile, when he crash lands, he meets up with a girl called Lilo, who is kind of like your typical sort of little kids movie girl who doesn't have that much friends, gets bullied and everything like that, and wishes upon a star one night that all she wanted was just a friend who really likes her for her. Q Stitch through shenanigans. She thinks he's a dog. They end up getting home. Stitch destroys a whole bunch of stuff. The thing ends, and everybody learns a lesson. And the big one is Ohana. Ohana being a Hawaiian word which means family. And the big line from Lilo and Stitch is Ohana means family. Family means no one gets left behind. Now, I don't think there isn't they've updated some things from the original thing. Like there's a bit where Lilo and Stitch escape on what in the original was like a trike with like push pedals. Now it's like an electric powered tiny sort of like toy car that they take off a kid and everything like that. But it's pretty much the same thing. They update a couple of things. They give Lilo's sister Nani more agency, so she isn't just looking after Lilo the whole time. She has a whole storyline about how she has dreams of her own, but she can't think about what she's going to do with the dreams because her sister is there. But if they have this Ohana thing and found this, can she actually go and follow her own dreams because their parents are dead and all that kind of stuff? Because this is a Disney movie, so of course their parents are dead. So, like, that's just what happens in Disney movies. Parents die. Deal with it. And yeah, and that is pretty much the storyline. And this I watched it with my daughters, as I said. We were in a pretty packed cinema. It was a whole bunch of parents with a whole bunch of kids. A whole bunch of them showed up with their own Stitch toys, with their own Stitch shirts, which showed you why Disney made this film again, because Stitch is one of their most marketable characters because people love Stitch, come on, he is adorable. He's adorable. And I have to admit that the effects in this film are actually really good because usually when you have a live action sort of like computer animation a hybrid, I'm always looking for the join. And it's usually when people hold on to something like if you ever see the Smurfs, I remember there's a scene in the Smurfs where Neil Patrick Harris, hang on, has everyone just frozen? Hello?
Yeah, so
Hello,
I would
hello.
yeah,
Of
It's
you're
course,
not
back.
it's not my end, Tosin. It's got to be your end
no,
because
that was
we.
definitely my end. That was
Oh,
definitely my end. I'm getting worried that one of my daughters is playing with a router.
oh.
But that was definitely my end because I realized that all of a sudden the timer had stopped. The timer had stopped and I was like, oh good Lord, they're frozen now.
There
Yeah.
he oh,
Yes. Essentially, as I suspected, one of my daughters had found the router and pulled the plug out. Akuya found the router and pulled the plug out, so obviously I just went away. Anyway, I think I was talking about Lilo and Stitch and everything, and I was saying that okay, it's a Disney remake. The thing doesn't change. The big thing I would say about this is that the effects are really, really good because I remember that in the Smurfs, I remember there was a bit where Neil Patrick Harris is supposed to be carrying a Smurf in his hand, and you can just see that there's nothing in his hands. But in this, even though Stitch is computer totally animated, you can't really see the joy when people hug him or anything like that. And so I think that's actually really good. They've put a lot of money and they put a lot of time and they've put a lot of effort into making a very good live action facsimile of an animated cartoon. So it's good because the original Lilo and Stitch is good. But is it better in animation? Yeah. The only it's better in animation, and the only good thing about this is the fact that you get to see Hawaiian people on screen, and you don't get to see Hawaiian people in Hawaii doing Hawaiian culture that often. And I think that is about the one redeeming factor about the film. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. So 3 out of 5 for Lilo and Stitch live action remake. And now let's go through to Sharon. Sharon, tell us about Sorry, I was about to say the taking of PanAm 123, but no,
No,
that's me. That's me confusing too many different things. Tell us what it is you're going to talk about before I get it wrong again.
this is a BBC drama called The Bombing of PanAm 103.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
and that's to those of you who know, well, I think most people know culturally, that we refer to it in Britain as the Lockerbie disaster,
Yeah,
because that was the name of the flight where a bomb was placed on board this plane full of passengers just before Christmas 1988. And the bomb, it detonated early. Instead of detonating over the ocean, it detonated over Scotland. And this wreckage fell on this one particular Scottish town, Lockerbie, killing a number 11 people on the ground. And all the passengers and the luggage and the wreckage of this plane was scattered over something like 550 miles, square miles. It just went in. It just blew up everywhere, and a lot of the bodies were recovered from farmland, from forest land, from literally all of this huge area. They recovered all of these bodies, and this is the story of. And so that normally we see look at it from the point of view of one of the people on the flights or one of the people on the ground. They normally look at it from that sort of human point of view. This is different in that this looks at the police investigation. And so you start off on the night of the explosion. A few, they pick up a couple of the passengers just to give you that way into the story, but most of it is taken from the point of the police officers. And the first police officer you meet is someone who's on duty at the police station. He's a detective sergeant, and he's called to go to what they think has just been an accident in Lockerbie. They don't know much about it. They get there and they basically see this inferno, and they see the bodies in there still strapped into their seats and luggage everywhere, and it becomes pretty clear that this is not a tragic accident. This is a crime scene, and then they go about treating every piece of evidence as a piece of criminal evidence. And you see over 6 episodes how they, first of all, they're investigating the crash and the explosion, the bomb, then identifying where the bomb came from, how it was made, how it was placed on the plane, and then tracing it back till they actually get the perpetrators. And history has told us that it was a sort of it came from Libya, and that there's this a suspicion, but it's not proved in court, that this was state-sponsored terrorism.
yeah,
That the bomb maker he was convicted of, like the person who was convicted of placing the bomb on the plane, has strong intelligence links to the Libyan special, their secret agents, secret service. And there's currently a trial going to be starting imminently in America of the bomb maker, who they've finally identified after all these years. So that it sort of ties in with why it's suddenly we're seeing a lot more about Lockerbie lately, because they believe they've identified who the bomb maker is, and he is going to be going on trial soon.
all
So
right.
you see the story through one particular detective sergeant. You start with him and you follow him through the journey, and then the FBI agent who was involved in the case. Because even though the bomb was planted in Frankfurt, it was made in Malta, they believe, or made in Libya, transported to Malta, boarded a plane to Frankfurt, transferred from Frankfurt to London, then boarded the plane, and then it blew up over Scotland. But they decided that Scotland had the jurisdiction for this crime, so they were the ones who investigated it. But you see the story through the eyes of the Scottish police, the FBI, some CIA, and then other people who get involved. You see they get drawn into the investigation.
Was it like a docudrama then? Was it a
No,
docudrama?
it's full on drama, and they do give you a disclaimer at the beginning that some people are like composites of real people, and
Right.
that some scenes have been created for dramatic effect. So you know
Yeah.
that they try to take as much truth as they can, but they obviously they make they've made a drama out of the truth. So it's definitely, you have to take it with, this is not a documentary, but they try to stick to the facts as much as possible, I believe. So yeah, I found it because I'm obviously aware of that. I'm old enough to remember the events of Lockerbie when it happened.
Yeah.
I remember I was at the police station at the time, and my friend I worked with, she'd lived in Scotland for many years, and she had family who still lived in Lockerbie. And so the night of the day after this crash, she was up all night trying to get hold of her relatives, but the phone lines were just completely jammed. So she came to work the next day saying, I've been on the phone trying to ring them all night long, and
Yeah,
I
because
can't
this
get
was this was before mobile phones, wasn't it?
before mobile phones. You only had landlines to call.
Yeah.
and it was just chaos at the night. So I remember that distinctly. I remember because of that event when she came and said, "Look, I've been on the phone all night trying to get hold of them. I've not heard if where the plane has hit, whether it's their house, whether it's near them." So I remember that distinctly from the time, and obviously we've seen the events over the years as they've tried to sort of imprison these people responsible. So I found it, yeah, quite a powerful drama. Obviously, there's enough truth in it for you to think, for it to feel that it resonates as the truth, and
Yeah.
the impact on the police officers and the impact on the people who have to immerse themselves in this. So yeah, I found it a really powerful drama. I would certainly recommend watching it. All the cast I thought were very good. The ones playing the detective sergeants. Sometimes the only thing that made me sort of a little bit was like because they've like set in the 1980s, some of the 80s hair and clothes. I'm thinking it looked to me a little bit too contrived.
Oh yeah,
It
yeah.
didn't look like
Well, it
a
didn't look
natural
too
look.
fake. You're like, that isn't your hair.
Yeah, so it's like if it was that edge to it. It was like, no, I don't really believe that that's actually your hair. And that takes you out of the drama a little bit when you think you're consciously trying to look in period, but it just looks a little bit artificial.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
apart from that, that's my only sort of slight niggle was like they look to me every now and then I've got to go, that's yeah, obviously that's a pig. But no, I thought it was well worth it. Very good drama, very well done, sensitively done. A four star.
Oh, 4 star, 4 star. I would be interested in see if you could bring yourself to watch Lockerbie. But it's yeah. But anyway, I'm trying not to go on tangents today. We need to get out here quick. So because that was a good one as well. Anyway, let us go over back to cinema and let's talk Dangerous Animals. So Sean,
Dangerous animals.
yes,
Yeah.
Dangerous Animals. You got this at a secret screening. This is
Yeah.
Australia. There's a lot of stuff coming out of Australia at the moment, both TV and film. Tell
Yeah.
us about this.
Okay, so Dangerous Animals. Well, so what it was a secret script. I went with Happy John, and
Yeah,
Happy John he said it's going to be one or two. He says he reckons something like Clown in the Corn, or it's going to be Dangerous Animals. I said, "What's Dangerous Animals about?" And he goes, "Well, I'll put it like this. This is the pitch: sexy girls getting fed to sharks." I said, "Oh, that sounds interesting." Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway,
that
so
sounds like it's been made 15 times already.
well, yeah, yeah. But this one, Toes, this one is all right because it's not. So basically, the story. Let's do the story first. Is you've got a serial killer who owns a boat, which he takes people out. So and he finds out if people are alone, like you will, or not. Or people don't know where they are, and
Yeah,
he takes out and sort of kidnaps them and does nefarious things to people.
yep,
So that's basically the story. That's the premise. And you've got one of the girls, Zephyr. She's quite, shall we say, a bit smarter than the other one, and he
yep.
sort of drugs them and ties them up. Um, and she tries to escape all the different things, and she can't. She's sort of handcuffed to the bed and stuff. And there's this other girl, and he goes, "Oh, I'm going to show you what to do," and sort of straps them in and lowers them into all the sharks. There's some good scenery, real proper sharks. Yeah, we like that. This would be a Holly shark infested
Oh
movie.
yes, yes, that's for sure.
So,
you like
No,
the
but it
sharks?
is.
so she needs to,
But Holly and Sharon both like shark movies, but only
We
if
do.
they're rubbish.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this
The
this
worse, the better.
now what I'm going to say to you in
The
this
cheaper, the better.
is, my pet hate about if you've got the mad killer in a vulnerable position, you
You take him out.
petrol. So
Yeah. You whack
I'm
them
just
with
going to
the bar.
say, I'm just going to say that yes, and then something happens which makes it really okay, fair enough. And there's that one little bit in there that I was like, right, okay, that's good. I like that. I
So
like
so
that
so they've
because
actually
there's
thought
no
about it.
stupidness.
Yeah,
It's just, and what happens happens. I won't give it away because it's quite a major part of the film. But just to
yeah,
say, right, okay, fair enough. So he's managed to, get chasing. So you've got all the tropes of like being chased and a lot of tension and
yeah. It's
yeah.
like, oh, I'm in a house. I'm in a house. Here's the front door. I can run out the front door. Oh no, let's go upstairs.
I, I must say that after that bit though, sort of how she escapes and stuff, there's something she does which, I mean, I could be
They could
quite
trip up a
forgiving about
lot.
it. I
They
don't I
could
don't
be
know if I
tripping
could do
over.
it. I don't know if I could do it, but she manages, should we say, to escape and get round, and you've got, should we say, dart guns and knives and all sorts of stuff going on. So, but yeah, I found a really this was a totally entertaining movie. It was really good
Oh
for
yeah.
me personally, and I all the stuff from the kidnappings to the there's this young lad that's trying to find the girl that's been kidnapped. So and he does a bit of research and that, and he sort of sees some old CCTV footage because being in Australia, where the beach is, they got CCTVs. It's called Wave Watch, and he sort of sees the girl, what happens, and does a bit of investigation work. So finds out, and he goes and yeah. So a lot of stuff in this was not silly, except maybe how she escaped. I don't know. You could do it how she escaped, but I don't know if I could do
Okay.
it.
Okay, we'll talk around that now. We're talking
Yes,
about
definitely.
But
Okay.
okay, so you sounds like you liked it. Sounds
I
like you
did like
liked.
this. Yeah, I
So
like this film a lot.
how much did you like it? How many stars? How
Okay.
many? Yeah, quantify
Well,
your like, Sean. Quantify your love for this.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really call it a horror movie, so I would not call this a horror movie. It's more of a thriller movie, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a bit of gore in it and a few bobbing heads, and there's a little bit more gorier than Jaws, shall we say? But
Okay, yeah.
lovely scenery. I love those sharks, and I'm going to give this one. No, I love the sharks. I'm going to give this one like a high three-star one. So yeah, totally entertaining. Really enjoyed it, and a nice surprise. A nice surprise.
Ooh, cool.
One of those
I,
type of films.
I was expecting a four to just tumble off your mouth there, but
Well, I
but
don't think it's probably not worth a four because I think it's sort of well maybe it
it's
is worth a
it,
four.
it's just
But for my enjoyment, put it this way, I think for other people it'd probably be a three. Pretty
okay.
decent, entertaining movie. For me, I would give it a four, but I don't think that it.
I think that's a four.
Okay, give it a four.
as it's
Thank you, Toes. Thank you, Toes.
if it's a well done premise, it might be a 3-star premise elevated a little bit to a four. But but I'll say like in the week that you come back, it's just like Shaun to come up with a film I have never heard of.
No, well, I hadn't heard of it. It was like a real surprise. It was terrific.
I didn't even know this was on there, and it sounds like a good role for Jai Courtney.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Playing, and it sounds like he's playing Australian. There's a lot of that happening. Australians who have made a career playing Americans going back to being Australian. Like
He was good, actually. It's probably the best film I've seen him in. The only other thing I think was Suicide Squad. I can't remember seeing
yeah,
him.
he was Captain Boomerang in Suicide Squad. I mean, nobody came out of that looking good, apart from maybe Margot Robbie. But it's all right.
Steady.
But well, yeah, that could be taken two ways. But I meant the acting, all right.
Yeah. No, yeah, sure. Yeah,
She,
no,
yeah,
it was.
she got to play that character for the next couple. Okay, anyway, now we're gonna go over to Netflix and stuff, and we're actually going to talk about Netflix proper. And I'm talking Department Q. And this show, I was talking about how I ended up actually watching this show, and it's one of these things where you know how Netflix every now and then they just push something and they go, this is coming, and when they said this is coming, the poster of this, I was like, what is that? I couldn't really tell what it was. I could tell that was Matthew Good standing there, but the poster almost made it look a little bit like either Supernatural or X-Filesy or something like that. And I was like, yeah, well, not going to bother watching that. And then they brought it up. You know when they have one of those things where they have the banner and then they start playing a trailer of it, or they start playing like a little clip of it. So over the week, I ended up seeing 2 different clips. And from these clips, I couldn't figure out what this show was. I was watching this thing going, hang on. Because there was this bit where there's 2 people having a conversation, and it just ends up with going, we want you to take over a new department. It's downstairs. It's like we're a queue, and it's like, but no, all the offices downstairs are numbered. There's no queue, and then she goes, it's downstairs, and you're like, wait a second. What is this? so I ended up watching the first episode just to figure out what the heck this show was. Thinking I'm probably going to watch the first episode. I'm just going to leave it and then go. And then sure enough, it is written well enough that by the end of the first episode, I'm like, oh, you so-and-sos. Now I've got to keep watching. Now I've got to find out what happens. Because obviously by the end of the first episode, you figure out what kind of show it is. And this is kind of like, it is based on a, Sharon, I think you like this because it's set in Edinburgh mostly, it's set in Scotland.
I was wondering where it was set.
Yeah, it's set in Scotland, but it is based on some Scandi noir novels, which have been turned into a hit series of films in Sweden, I believe it is. But now they've not taken this, they've taken an English language version, they've relocated everything to Scotland. So it's kind of like almost a very Scandi noir influence, very all that darkness, and as the plot unfolds, what actually happens and what's actually going on, very Scandi, but in Scotland. and it works remarkably well. I mean, Scotland is it turns out that Scotland does dower very well, and it's the thing about it is you meet Matthew Good, and right at the beginning, the first thing you see on this is like police body cam footage. And this police body cam footage happens, and you realize that there's these two policemen have shown up at a place. Something happens, some people get shot, and then it jumps 4 months later. 4 months later, you find that he was one of the people who got shot, so he's been off duty. He has to go see not a psychiatrist, but he has to go see what's the word I'm looking for? Essentially,
Counselor?
a counselor, yeah, like a counselor, psychotherapist or whatever. And before he can be put back on active duty. And the department, because they need a win and they want a PR win, they decide, you know what we're going to do? Somebody just solved a cold case from a couple of years ago and a missing person's case. We're going to give you a whole bunch of money, but only if you set up a department that looks into cold cases. And she's like, well, I don't have anybody to give. And she's like, hang on a second. Cold case, that is technically not active duty. So she takes this policeman who's just coming back after being shot in the neck, who nobody likes because he is your stereotypical kind of like, fill in the blank, fill in the blank. Essentially, he's that kind of police officer, like, thinks he's better than everybody, also that kind of stuff. And they put him in the basement and they give him a whole bunch of files and say, pick one. It's like, why? Which one? It's like, we don't care. Pick anyone, because all we want is just to make the department look good. They take all the money that's been given to him for his department and they spend it on updating all the computers and putting up flat screen TVs in the rest of the police department. And they don't actually give him any of it. And he says, look, I need an assistant. And there's a Syrian guy who has been a refugee to Scotland, who's just coming around saying, I used to work with the police back in Syria. Is there anything? And then they go, oh, yeah. So they shove him down in the basement with this guy. And it's called Department Q because their office is what is the shower quarters. So as it goes along, as the story develops, you find out that there is a cold case. And the first episode tells you two stories in tandem, and then you realize that one of the stories is the cold case, is what actually happened leading up to the cold case, and the other story is the investigation of it. And you start finding out what's going on with what happens where there's somebody who disappeared 4 years ago, and the Syrian guy Akram, he says, I think she's still alive. They start going into it, and it's one of these things where the interaction between the characters is what makes this show work. And the fact that the way the case is built and the way it actually goes, there's not too many giant leaps of, ooh, that's convenient to happen or anything like that. But the way that they bring everybody on board and the way they build a team, what ends up being a team of the Karl Mork, Akram, somebody who's had some mental health issues in the past, but is not trying to get back into active duty, and the other guy who was shot so is recovering and can't really walk, and how they build them up together to become this sort of team. I actually think that it's done quite well. I think it's too long. 9 episodes is too long. I kind of figured out what was going on before they revealed what was going on. But all in all, I thought it was really good. They're obviously trying to make more because there's 9 books or something like that. So I would give it a 4 out of 5 for Department Q. And I would recommend, Sharon, definitely you, watch it because of your Scandi love. Right, and Sharon, we shall go over to you and tell us about The Salt Path.
Yes, The Salt Path is based on a book by Raina Wynn, and it's a story of this couple who basically have a double blow in their lives. The first one, the most significant one, well, they're both equally sort of devastating. Her husband, her husband of sort of 20 plus years, has been diagnosed with a debilitating and incurable illness that basically is a bit like motor neuron disease, but not. And that's close I could describe it, where you physically start to get weaker, and then you're there's like a long-term degenerative disease, and they're advised that he is it's slow progressing, but there is like an almost inevitability about his physical decline.
Yeah.
At the same time, they had invested in a company just purely to invest in it, and it turns out that the paperwork that absolves them of any liability for when the company fails has been lost, and they were basically held accountable for all the financial losses of this company, and they lose their home. Again, their farm, their livelihood, their home for many years. They lose everything, and they have 5 days to vacate their home. and they get this diagnosis and they get this sort of court judgment almost simultaneously, and they have nowhere to go. They call around their friends, no one can sort of put them up. Both their grown up children are at university, neither of them are in a position to put them up. They've just got nowhere to go. They try
Yeah.
to get housed. No, they're not eligible for emergency housing because his illness is degenerative. It's not a quick disease, so
Yeah.
they can't say he's only got a year to live. And they just say, why don't we just walk? Why don't we just get our tent and our rucksack and just walk? And then something will happen. And that's what they do. They decide to walk the southwest path of Great Britain, starting at Minehead, going the wrong way round. Normally, you start on the south coast and then you walk you walk west and then up and you go east. They started in Minehead and they decided to go west and then sort of round the the toe of Great Britain, Land's End, and then along that one. And then you see their adventures of how him coping with his illness and his sort of physical problems, and then just going on this physical journey of stripping away all the things they thought they needed, and then focusing on things that matter, their relationship, shedding a lot of the baggage they didn't realize they were holding on to, about the anger of the past, the anger of
Yeah.
losing their home, the anger against the sort of the fate, as it were, about his illness. And they just walk. And this, like all these things, it's not just about a physical walk, it's a journey of their emotionally, it's a journey of their sort of development as people and as a couple, and they're just reevaluating their lives and finding out what really matters. And the fact that doing this walk helps him physically, Moth. He finds that stopping some of his medication actually and doing this physical exercise, which they said was the worst thing he could do, that he should just rest. He found that his pain is managed better, he's walking better, he's feeling more mentally alert. And so that it has a physical benefit, and they sort of obviously it draws them closer together as a couple because they're relying entirely upon each other. But yeah, it's a based on the real events. Obviously the real Rain of Win often appears on the television, and the real Moth. You see a picture of him at the very end. He's still alive. It's not a spoiler. He's still alive 10 years later, and still coping with his illness.
Yeah.
And you see them doing this sort of this southwest path. So I actually really enjoyed it. I have read the book. It does go through sort of like these highs and lows of the journey. They're enjoying the sort of experience of being on the rugged north coast,
Yeah.
of sort of Devon, Somerset, Devon, and then into Cornwall. Yeah, and sort of celebrating the sort of the landscape, as it were. So I really found it engrossing because it just spoke to me. I always like to go west when I have time,
Yeah.
and there's nothing better than walking next to the sea, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Sharon, I was about to say when we were talking about this, I was like, yeah, this film could have been made for you. But the only thing that would have made it more for you would have been somebody like Gillian Anderson and Jason Isaacs sit down at some point and read some poetry. That's about the only thing.
Yeah, what he does, he reads Beowulf at one point.
So yeah.
And folk music in the background. So yeah, it ticked all the boxes for me. I went with a friend. We both enjoyed it. We both love the West Country, and it was a mature film. Obviously, aimed. They play age appropriate. They play themselves like
Yeah.
wow, a bit younger. They play a couple in their 40s,
Yeah.
and so it's sort of. I think both Jason Isaacs and Gillian Anderson are sort of slightly older than that, but
Yeah,
they
I would say
play
50
well.
something at least.
They're both 50 somethings, but they play 40 somethings. But no, yes, for me, it ticked all the boxes, and I really enjoyed it. They were sort of note perfect as a couple. Sometimes the accents, I was a bit like, what accent is that? But that's a small thing. That's a small thing. But
But
no, I thought it was a great film. I really enjoyed it. My friend really enjoyed it, and it makes you want to just go west and find a rugged coastline somewhere and just sit and
attack it.
yeah, just embrace it.
So how many stars for the Salt Path?
Again, I'm going to have to give it a 4 star. I don't think it's going to be a 4 star for everybody. I think if you're expecting a bit more sort of drama, a bit more action, a bit more highs and lows, you may not give it a 4, but for me, it was a 4 star film.
Yeah, I've heard people complain that it's like, oh, well, nothing happens. They're just walking. And other people going, that's the point.
The whole point, yes. Yeah, so if you're expecting these more dramatic moments, they're sort of like, but the dramatic moments are like a storm. Getting wet. That's the
Getting
drama.
wet. The tent peg came out. Oh no, we can't
That's
sleep
yeah.
properly now.
The tide's
That's
coming
actually.
in. That's the high. Yeah, that is the high sort of the dramatic tension you get.
Hey, I've been in a tent where a tent peg came on in the middle of a storm, and that is no picnic. That is dramatic. So, so
No, no, they're definitely a four for me.
all right, cool. So 4 stars for the Salt Path. And now we go on to the final thing this week, and this is Shaun has finally succumbed to the Paramount Plus sort of like I don't know, algorithm or the Paramount Plus kind of like, cool, come along, we'll give you 7 days free.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Come
yeah,
on, come
yeah.
try it. So and you took your 7 days and blasted through Mobland. So tell us
Mobland,
about
yeah.
Mobland, and at the end you can let us know if you're going to continue with Paramount Plus or not.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so Mobland, this is well, what it is, gangster flick, and it's basically starts off with these two families. So there's an Irish family there, and obviously a London family, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of rivalry there. And then the son of the Irish family basically kills the son of the London family. So they got a bit of a tension going on. And Tom Hardy, he works for the Irish family,
Yeah.
and he comes up with like a little bit of a plan that to try and placate the London family, and he's trying to work it so that there doesn't become a war. But as the series progresses, the London family find out what goes on, and so there becomes a bit of intrigue, a lot of typical. I think this is Guy Ritchie, isn't it? Is this
It
Guy
is Guy
Ritchie?
Ritchie.
Yeah, yeah. So with Guy Ritchie, you know what you're going to get, but this is a little bit more
But
gritty than like, yeah,
That's
yeah,
swagger.
pretty much with Guy Ritchie. I mean, I think he is very prolific because he did The Gentleman earlier this year, and now he's got Mobland, Gentleman on Netflix, Mobland on Paramount Plus. But yeah, he's gone to this point where he's like, "I'm Guy Ritchie. You know what you're gonna get. Let's go."
let's go. Yeah. So this is really really well acted, actually, to be fair. And Helen Mirren is horrid. She is absolutely foul in this. She is like such a nasty, nasty, bitchy, horrid character
And
that
probably
even
loving
to
every second of it.
yeah, even to yeah, I bet, and she's but she's got a lot of influence over her grandson.
Yep.
So, and he's like a little bit.
Oh no.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh, okay. I thought that was me this time, but no, this time it's Shaun. It's Shaun again. There's something going on with the. Well, actually, I was gonna say something going on with the internet across the country, but no, mine was just the kids. Mine was there's something.
Gone. Am I
Yeah,
still there, or did it lose me?
yeah.
We lost,
We
we lost
lost you.
you
We
with
lost you for a second.
Helen Mirren being really horrid, and then
Yeah,
Yeah,
really
and her
horribly
grandson.
nasty and bitchy. She but played it brilliantly, absolutely
Yeah.
brilliantly. And
grandson.
Oh no,
He's
we
got
lost him again.
um, so
grandson.
yeah, I don't know what's happening here with the internet, but
Yeah,
I'm going in and out. It's been fine, isn't it, up until now? So
yeah.
anyway, let's get on with the story. So this story, and you've got Paddy Constantine, who went to
Ooh.
prison. Something rather nasty happens to him in prison.
Oh, goodness.
Headline story. One of the daughters is doing the diamond things, but that goes a bit.
This is actually getting funny now. I think we're almost gonna play like finish the
Everybody.
sentence for Shaun.
The Tom Hardy character is just trying to keep everything in order.
Oh, it's just
I don't reckon people like me. Why is this suddenly happen? But anyway, so I'm going to go really, really, really quick here.
Yeah,
So so basically the story, and it comes to a climax at the end, and then obviously it's going to set it up for the new one that's coming. But if you know Guy Ritchie stuff, it's a really, really gritty Guy Ritchie. So there's none of the like lightheartedness and that like you get in some like Lock, Stock or
yeah,
Snap. Those.
yeah.
It's very, very serious stuff. And yeah, Helen Mirren. Oh, I could. Okay. So yeah, and
Ooh, ooh. If you've seen the video of this, you will see the. Okay, cool. Shaun's back.
yeah, I'm back. So yeah, so right. Well, what I'm going to do is
It's excruciating.
Oh my God. I don't know what is going on with the internet and cows, but it seems to have decided that Shaun is allowed like a certain number of words before it cuts out. It gives you like 5 words and then it
Yeah.
cuts out.
Okay. All right. So it must be something. The mob must be after me. Anyway.
I think the key word is anyway. Whenever he says anyway, that's what happens.
Let me calm down. Let me calm down and see if that makes any difference.
Okay, how many stars?
Okay. So I'm going to give this 3 stars.
Okay.
Stars that-
We got a star rating.
Pretty good. So I'm going to give it 3 stars because some of the episodes on the whole are a little bit far.
I'm gonna think he was going to say far-fetched. Far-fetched. He was
Yeah,
going to
we'll
say
go with
far-fetched.
I'll shut up. 3 stars.
3 stars. Okay. Let us see whether Shaun's we will see whether Shaun's internet connection will let him actually answer this question. So, who do you think has won this week? Netflix or cinema?
I'm going to say it slowly. Cinema.
I think it's a tie. I think it's 4-3-3 on both sides.
Oh, okay, cool. Well,
Am I
Sharon
right?
is correct.
Am I
Sharon is correct. It is
well done,
it is a
Sharon.
tie. It is a tie. But it's 3-4-4 on both sides.
Oh, 3-4-4.
Yeah,
Oh,
3-4-4 on both sides.
Ah.
Yeah, so Lilo and Stitch and Mobland got a 3, everything else got a 4. So it is a good week, and we would
Pretty good
say
week, yeah.
we would say, look, whether you choose to get off your butt and go to the cinema, which is, I mean, the cinema near close to me, I have to say, the Omniplex in Great Park in Birmingham, it's a lovely cinema now. It is so good. It is actually such an event going out to the cinema, especially with kids, because they have like food trucks in the thing, and every single seat in the whole cinema reclines and everything. So it feels like a proper. It feels like a proper day out. So I think that they've done it right there. Yeah. So if you wanted to get up and go out to cinema, or you wanted to stay at home this week, I think we would say we're being served well on all fronts.
I tell you what, isn't that weird? It's all gone back to normal now.
It's
I reckon
settled down now.
It'd just be my speech. I don't know. It was just.
I don't know. I think that there's something. I reckon that there's somebody in your house, right, who maybe thought you were speaking too loudly and kept switching off the router and switching it back on.
Yeah, maybe switch it off, switch it on again.
They're downloading something just when you're doing your review.
Yeah, maybe.
They're probably downloading episodes of Mobland. They heard you speaking about it and decided, you know what, I want to watch this. I'm going to download some Mobland.
Because I mean, we're fine again, aren't we?
We are fine. And while we are fine, I'm going to try and grab a hold of this moment. While we are fine and nobody's getting cut off and nobody's child is pulling the router out of the wall and nobody's freezing and everything like that, to say, until next week, it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
And also a goodbye from me.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. We have no idea what's in cinema next week, but rest assured, Shaun will find it.
I'm going to find something. Yeah, I need to go.